What's up, guys? Gonna try to make this one short and sweet because I don't like much of the card at all tonight. I got this awful noise behind me with landscaping going. I don't know what the hell's going on back there. Fuck that. Last night, 1-1 as we continue this bad stretch, this like slow bleed, basically. At least it's better than hemorrhaging, but just treading water here. Well, not even treading water, slowly losing the last few days, which is not good. Very small losses, though, but Pittsburgh Penguins, nice, easy win last night, pretty much. Blanking the Anaheim Ducks, I believe. And then, UNC Asheville just did not get there. I thought the handicap was good on that one, but that was not to be. Tonight, there is more college basketball, but I am not going to be involved in it. I don't really see any angles there and what I looked at. Just enjoying those games at this point. College football, there's more action because what better to schedule as standalone games on weeknights than now the MAC conference. And I think all three of these games involve double-digit favorites. It's like, why would you want to watch any of these games? I do have a slight lean against Miami, Ohio in their game. They've gone up to a 17.5-point favorite, it looks like, but 96% of the tickets on them, although only 89% of the cash. They're certainly going to be a public team. They're hosting a very bad Akron team, but Miami, Ohio, I don't think they're in a very good spot, even though they have a couple extra days off compared to Akron, because Akron, I believe, played a midweek game last week as well. Miami, Ohio hasn't played since the Saturday prior to that. But Miami, Ohio, they were coming off a close battle against Toledo, and then they went into Ohio and beat them. So they're coming off back-to-back step-up games in which they were underdogs against their in-state bigger brothers, basically, both of them back-to-back, Toledo and then Ohio. So those are two big effort games for Miami, Ohio. They upset Ohio as a 7.5-point underdog or something like that and beat them by like 2 touchdowns. That was a fairly convincing win, a big win, and that put them in the driver's seat in the MAC East, which is probably something they did not expect. But now, even though they're still battling to win the MAC East to get into the MAC championship, because it looks like it's either going to be them or Ohio coming out of that division, I think this can only be considered to be a letdown spot, and they are laying a ton of points, so they might not be totally focused on this Akron team who only has 2 wins on the season and has not looked good at all. So that's the only way I would lean there, taking the ton of points with Akron, in Miami, Ohio being in that letdown spot, in my opinion. And what else we got going on here? Actually, look at Akron's schedule real quick. I don't know what they did. Akron actually, they might be in a more positive spot than you would think, too, because they had a huge loss streak, and they finally broke their momentum with their first MAC win of the year. They broke that negative momentum by beating Kent State, who's maybe the only team worse than they are in the MAC, but still, it's a win that can kind of break that losing momentum, and you finally get that first MAC win. It kind of like removes some of that like bad mental state that you might be in. So yeah, I would only lean to Akron in that one. In the NHL, really not much going on. I would lean against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've gone down a little bit to a -167 favorite at home. Looks like 95% of the tickets, but 100% of the cash. That can't be right, obviously, but they're going to be the public team for sure. They're hosting Ottawa, and Toronto, they're coming off come-from-behind win over Tampa Bay to get their second win over Tampa on the season in those rematches of last year's playoff series that Toronto also won. Toronto's had the upper hand there. They fell behind 4-1 in that game, came all the way back, and I think wound up winning that game in a shootout. So I would consider them to be in a letdown spot after that like big win. They might not be totally paying attention to Ottawa here, so that's the way I would look in that one. And then my one play is going to be in the NBA, although I do have a couple of leans in the NBA elsewhere, I would say. I don't really have any leans on the big games. There are the big games here between the Celtics and the 76ers, which is a big Eastern Conference divisional battle there. And then the Warriors are playing the Nuggets. I don't know what to think about those. I can tell you that the market reads would put me on the 76ers and the Warriors in those, because you can see that the Celtics are a 2.5-point road favorite, but 74% of the tickets on them and only 63% of the cash. They're going to be public, but they are coming off being dealt their first loss of the season. So you could say maybe that's a game where they lost to the Timberwolves. Maybe that's a game where they lose that game twice, so to speak, even though I don't think they're going to be unfocused against the 76ers. But there are better reasons to want the 76ers here, not just because I don't know if the Celtics are going to have any sort of hangover effect on that, but this is also a revenge spot for the 76ers, even though they have a different lineup now. They are now James Harden-less, etc., but they're probably going to remember losing that 7-game series, that battle. Celtics are the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year, and I think this is now the second game between these two teams this year, and the Celtics, is it? I don't even know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know if the Celtics, because I was going to say the Celtics beat them once already this year. Did they? No. No, that's not even true. They beat the Nets. That's what I was thinking of. So no, scratch that. So yeah, this is the first time the 76ers get to play them after the Celtics ended their season last year. So I would say that it is a revenge spot there for the 76ers. And they are sort of the anti-public home underdog, if you will, there. So yeah, that's the way I would lean in that one to the 76ers. Warriors Nuggets, you can see the Nuggets are a 4-point home favorite with 89% of the tickets, but it looks like 80% of the cash is on the other side on the Warriors. This is a tough one to predict, I would say, but just market read alone would lean me to the Warriors there, I would say, a bit. I do lean against the Sacramento Kings, even though I think they're returning home for a 3-game road trip, so I think the feeling is going to be that, the Kings are going to then bounce back from a bad 0-3 road trip. They were a playoff team last year. They're going to be back home. They're going to have to bounce back against a not very good Portland Trailblazers team, right? Well, I don't think that's the right way of thinking about it. When you have a team coming back from a road trip, it's a distracted spot. So even if that road trip was bad, it tends to not be a positive spot returning from that road trip there. And I believe Portland is starting a road trip after losing at home to the Memphis Grizzlies, which I think was Memphis finally getting their first win of the season, which is crazy to think about. But the Blazers are going to be starting a road trip here, which is a positive spot when you lose that last game at home, because you get to kind of disrupt that negative momentum. Go on the road, and you really just have to focus on basketball. You get away from those distractions of home, whereas the Kings are coming back into those distractions. Looks like the Kings have gone down a little bit to a 7.5-point favorite, even though they have 69% of the tickets, and it looks like 77% of the cash. I don't know about that. I certainly believe they're going to be getting more of the public bettors on their side here. So I think it's one of those spots where you have one team returning home and the other team starting a road trip. So that tends to be a negative for the returning home team and a positive for the team starting the road trip. So I lean to the Trailblazers plus the points in that one. And I also lean to the Pelicans slightly, even though the market looks completely against it, which is one of the things that's kind of keeping me off of it. Just because the T-Wolves just dealt my Celtics, unfortunately, their first loss of the season. So the T-Wolves could be in a little bit of a letdown spot here, but it looks like they have gone up to 7.5 at home. And it looks like they have 57% of the cash, but 68% of the tickets are on the other side, taking the Pelicans as the underdog. I don't know. So the market read does look like the smarter money, I guess, is on the T-Wolves and driving them up a little bit, but that's not the way that I lean in that one. So I don't agree with the market on that one, which is, again, kind of what's keeping me off of that. Pelicans, I believe, are still going to be without McCollum, because he has that small lung puncture or whatever it is. It doesn't sound great. And this is going to be now their second game without him. I kind of liked them in the first game without him because it's that injured player theory type of thing, and I think they wound up not covering against the Nuggets. But now they're coming off a loss, I think by double digits in that game is what it wound up being. So they could potentially be in a bounce back spot, even though that second game now with that injured player out tends to be a little bit of a negative, but not as much of a negative when you lost that first game without him. You tend to not have quite as much of that lapse in focus. You're probably still going to want to be focused. You're up against the T-Wolves, who They're known to be like a pretty decent team, and they're, like I said, I think the T-Wolves are in a letdown spot off of the game against the Celtics, where they dealt the Celtics their first loss. A pretty big win for the T-Wolves as a home underdog. But the game I am actually looking at, the only play that I have right now on the day, because I really don't like this card, even though there are a lot of NBA games to choose from. This is going to be going against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've been on some of their games. I was on one of their games where they won. I believe they won as an underdog against the Knicks in one game where I had them in a quick revenge spot. But now Cleveland, they've kind of been like doing the zigzag thing, so I kind of like going against them in the scheduling spot here. It looks like it's a down scheduling spot for them because they're coming off beating the Golden State Warriors in a big win for them. That's a big win against one of the best teams in basketball. Everybody knows Golden State, star-studded team, one of the best teams. Now after they do that, that was a one-game homestand. Now they have to go back out on the road, even though it is with time off. I think that that's actually a negative in this case, because when you're at home and you have that big win like that, I don't think you want to be like spending time like thinking about that win, basking in that win, even though going on the road might have you like focused on basketball again. I don't know about that. Like that, a little bit of extra time off and having to go on the road might actually disrupt some positive momentum that you might have from that win in this case. They're going out to Oklahoma City, and who do they have next? Golden State again. So this is a Golden State sandwich, whatever types of sandwiches they eat out in San Francisco in the Bay Area. I don't know what they eat out there. They don't have any good sandwiches out there. Going to Oklahoma City, it's a tough spot for them. It's a Warrior sandwich for Cleveland, so I think this is definitely a negative for them. So this is why I'm going against them here, and they are a road favorite as well. Oklahoma City, what's their schedule looking like right now? If this would ever load, I could comment on it. Yeah, they're coming off a win against the Hawks, but they're just staying at home. So I don't know. Beating the Hawks, not like a huge deal, but I thought that was a negative spot for Oklahoma City because they were coming off a close game against Golden State where they were winning and they lost right at the end. So I thought they were in a negative there. But they took that negative spot and they still won against Atlanta. So that kind of tells me this Oklahoma City team can play pretty well, even in a bad spot like that. So I consider that to be a bit of a positive. They're staying at home. I think they might be focused on this Cleveland team coming in because they don't really have much going on. They have Sacramento after this. They have to go on the road after this. I don't know. They might want to finish the homestand on a positive note here. And people might also do that like syllogism thing again where they might see Cleveland just beat Golden State, but Golden State also just beat Oklahoma City. So, of course, Cleveland is, of course, going to then, therefore, beat Oklahoma City. But, of course, you can't do that type of, like, transitive property and handicapping like that because, as I keep saying, every game is an individual, like, isolated situation where things line up in a certain way. You can't just say, you know, Team A beat Team B, and Team B beat Team C, so, therefore, Team A will beat Team C. It does not always work that way. So I like going against the Cleveland Cavs here. I like taking the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's going to be at plus 2.5 here. The Cavs are the public road favorite as well. They have 91% of the tickets, but only 87% of the cash, it looks like. So it looks like the market might be in agreement with me on this as well. This, I think, is the strongest play on the board. I think the Cavs are in the worst spot out of any of these teams on the board that I have looked at here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the plus 2.5 with the Thunder at home. That's going to do it. Peace out.